Today, you will find the greatest quarterbacks ever to launch a forward pass. The men who defined their respective eras and revolutionized football in ways we previously never thought possible. Picking the best quarterbacks of all time isn't an exact science, but telling the story of the game would frankly be impossible without these passers. 10. Drew Brees. Teams: Los Angeles Chargers, 2001 to 2005. New Orleans Saints, 2006 to 2020. Accolades: Super Bowl 44 MVP, Super Bowl 44 champion, 13 Pro Bowls, 7-time passing yards leader, 6-time completion percentage leader, 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, 2-time passer rating leader. Of everyone on this list, Brees stands out for his impeccable inefficiency. Standing just 6 feet tall, Brees was never known for tremendous athleticism. His arm was also average at best. Yet for 2 decades, Brees was cerebral. He cut up defenses with pinpoint accuracy, timing, and poise like no one ever had every single week. It is a crying shame an elite quarterback of his caliber only won 1 Super Bowl because his resume says he deserved to have a hand littered with championship rings. 9. Fran Tarkenton. Teams: Minnesota Vikings, 1961 to 1966, 1972 to 1978. New York Giants, 1967 to 1971. Accolades: MVP, 1975, 9 Pro Bowls, Offensive Player of the Year, 1975, First Team All-Pro, 1975, Passing Yards Leader, 1978, Passing Touchdowns Leader, 1975, Completion Percentage Leader, 1977. One of the NFL's first true dual threats, Tarkenton was a scrambling wizard who, at times, essentially generated offense by himself for the Vikings. He unthinkably scored a rushing touchdown in 15 separate seasons. Tarkenton was an electric model of consistency, a man who led the Vikings, one of football's more snake-bitten organizations, to 3 separate Super Bowls. At the time of his retirement, he held almost every relevant NFL passing record. To this day, Tarkenton remains a preeminent example of using your legs to amplify one's passing. 8. John Elway. Teams: Denver Broncos, 1983 to 1998. Accolades: 2 Super Bowl titles, Super Bowl 33 MVP, 1987, 9 Pro Bowls, 3-time second-team All-Pro, passing yards leader, 1993. Elway was the poster boy for a one-man army, elevating the inferior sum of his parts around him. The former #1 overall pick lived up to the hype by taking an overmatched Denver team to 3 separate Super Bowls in the 1980s. For you modern football aficionados, young Elway was essentially the current Patrick Mahomes without the Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame tight end, and all-around dynamic supporting cast. Elway was a playmaking superhero with a bazooka of an arm. The Broncos finally paid back an older Elway with a stacked roster that let him win back-to-back championships to close his iconic career. 7. Aaron Rodgers. Teams: Green Bay Packers, 2005 to 2022. New York Jets, 2023 present. Accolades: Super Bowl 45 champion, Super Bowl 45 MVP, 4-time MVP, 10 Pro Bowls, 4-time first-team All-Pro, 4-time passer rating leader, 2-time passing touchdown leader, all-time career passer rating leader. Everything about Rodgers' career to this point has defied logic. He sat on the bench for 3 seasons behind a Hall of Fame quarterback, finally jumped in and struggled in 2008, then became a Hall of Famer in his own right. He owns a career 4.7 touchdown-to-interception ratio. Statistically, he's arguably the greatest passer in league history, as his tendency to almost never throw interceptions in the red zone gives him the highest career passer rating ever. If not for his vast array of blemishes in the postseason, the fact that Rodgers owns just 1 Super Bowl victory is much more his fault than other quarterbacks who only climbed the highest summit once. We'd be talking about the #1 quarterback here. Nevertheless, Rodgers will be remembered amongst his peers as one of the truly exceptional quarterbacks of the modern era. 6. Peyton Manning. Teams: Indianapolis Colts, 1998 to 2011. Denver Broncos, 2012 to 2015. Accolades: 2-time Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl 41 MVP, 5-time MVP, 14 Pro Bowls, 7-time first-team All-Pro, 4-time passing touchdowns leader, 3-time passing yards leader, 3-time passer rating leader, 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, 2-time completion percentage leader. At the turn of the century, no one was a better steward of the game than Manning. He was effectively a coach on the field, calling what he felt were ideal offensive plays at the line of scrimmage every single week. More often than not, Manning's encyclopedic knowledge of football allowed him to simply outsmart opposing defenses. He was a pioneer that only a few elite defenders even had a chance of toppling. The reason Manning doesn't rank higher is because of his play in big games. Manning defenders will say football is a team game first, and they are correct. But a career 14-13 record in the postseason, along with a meager 87.8 passer rating, speaks to an exceptional quarterback many teams actually did figure out in mid-January. It also doesn't help that he was an elevated, hyped-up bystander against the Chicago Bears in the 2007 Super Bowl and a complete, washed-up afterthought against the Carolina Panthers in the 2016 title game. Manning was never the total reason his teams went all the way. Even when taking his extensive laundry list of regular season accolades into account, that knocks him down a peg. Sorry, eventually #QB wins must matter when we're discussing the greatest ever. 5. Otto Graham. Teams: Cleveland Browns, 1946 to 1955. Accolades: 3-time NFL champion, 3-time MVP, 5 Pro Bowls, 4-time first-team All-Pro, 3-time completion percentage leader, 2-time passing yards leader, 2-time passer rating leader, passing touchdowns leader, 1952. Even to this day, Graham has one unimpeachable statistic that will likely never be matched. He played 10 seasons in the AAFC and NFL for the Browns and appeared in 10 championship games, winning on 7 occasions. In an era of the sport where the forward pass was still considered devil magic to most teams, Graham was prolific with an uncanny efficiency. There was almost no one else who could match his capacity for the deep pass and impeccable accuracy that actually made passing a viable strategy. The Browns' quarterback was a man and winning player ahead of his time. 4. Patrick Mahomes. Teams: Kansas City Chiefs, 2-0-17, present. Accolades: 3-time Super Bowl champion, 3-time Super Bowl MVP, 2-time MVP, 6 Pro Bowls, 2-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time passing touchdowns leader, Offensive Player of the Year, 2018, passing yards leader, 2022. I know what you're thinking. No, it's not too early to rank Mahomes this high. If anything, I'm hedging by putting him at number 4, because I think the Kansas City Chiefs superstar is unequivocally already the greatest quarterback of all time. And he got off the bus running the moment the Chiefs entrusted their offense to him. In his first year as a starter, Mahomes threw 50 touchdown passes. Every year, as a starter, he has played in the AFC title game. Aside from the man at the top of this list, Mahomes is arguably the greatest playoff riser in football history, a player who always brings his best when the Chiefs' backs are up against the wall in a sudden death setting. If Mahomes somehow manages to play as long as a certain GOAT, he will smash every single relevant passing record in league history. We have never seen a quarterback like this dude in the red number 15. I doubt we ever will again. 3. Johnny Unitas. Teams: Pittsburgh Steelers, 1955, Indianapolis Colts, 1956 to 1972, Los Angeles Chargers, 1973. Accolades: 3-time NFL champion, Super Bowl 5 champion, 3-time MVP, 10 Pro Bowls, 5-time first-team All-Pro, 4-time passing yards leader, 4-time passing touchdowns leader, 2-time passer rating leader, completion percentage leader, 1967. Like another Colt decades later, Unitas changed the way the quarterback position is played. He pioneered the 2-minute drill, a bog-standard strategy of the modern game that any losing team wouldn't dare ignore these days. He was the first precision and timing passer of his kind, a quarterback who prioritized and drilled the forward pass as a main feature way above a rudimentary ground-and-pound scheme. A 4-time champion, Unitas was known for regular season excellence. He was the premier quarterback in the sport for the majority of his career, but he also shined in the second season. An elbow injury suffered late in his career somewhat diminished Unitas's effectiveness at the end. Still, he managed to adapt and find success with the mental game, always proving to be a step ahead of defenses. That was the classic Unitas model, adapting and finding something that works at all costs because of his genius. 2. Joe Montana. Teams: San Francisco, 49 ERs, 1979 to 1992, Kansas City Chiefs, 1993 to 1994. Accolades: 4-time Super Bowl champion, 3-time Super Bowl MVP, 2-time MVP, 8 Pro Bowls, 5-time completion percentage leader, 3-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time passing touchdowns leader, 2-time passer rating leader, Offensive Player of the Year, 1989. Montana held the title of Best Quarterback Ever for decades, perhaps longer than anyone else ever has. He was the poster boy of Bill Walsh's revolutionary West Coast offense, the engine of a scheme that utilized the short passing game as an extension of running plays. The reason Montana was perfect for Walsh's line of thinking was his uncommon accuracy and an underrated athleticism that let him augment the 49ers offensive supporting cast. Even without a strong arm, Montana could thrive by continually putting the ball in the right place with the perfect amount of touch. When it came time for the team of the 1980s to flex its muscles in the playoffs, Montana was flawless. He was unflappable, a comeback wizard who slayed some of the finer opposing teams of that era, like the Chicago Bears, with a clinical ruthlessness. In a period of pro football where defenses were allowed to maul receivers and quarterbacks, Montana excelled anyway. And after the 49ers gave up on the older version of him, Montana turned right around and took the then-loser Chiefs to an AFC title game in the early 1990s. His greatness is unquestioned. 1. Tom Brady. Teams: New England Patriots, 2000 to 2019, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2020 to 2022. Accolades: 7-time Super Bowl champion, 5-time Super Bowl MVP, 3-time MVP, 15 Pro Bowls, 3-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, 5-time passing touchdowns leader, 4-time passing yards leader, 2-time passer rating leader, completion percentage leader, 2007. Nothing can be said about Tom Brady that hasn't already been stated. He has the most Super Bowl wins, the most Super Bowl MVPs, owns essentially every major passing record, and he played at an elite level for over 2 decades in an exceedingly physical game. Brady is the best, winningest, and most famous player in the history of football. Full stop. He is the clear face of the modern game and will likely be a lead ambassador of the sport for decades to come. He's Tom Brady. Enough said.